No encampment evictions. Support our unhoused neighbors. These are just some of the homemade signs held by housing activists at a rally outside City Hall this morning. It was in protest of council's decision to revoke a bylaw that temporarily allowed homeless encampments on city property.
And since then, there has been a couple people moved, not violently, but they have been asked to leave where they are, having given notice that they're trespassing.
The encampment protocol was designed in partnership with community members, with the city, and it was designed to make sure that everyone can use the parks. And this bylaw and the revocation of that protocol flies in the face of that.
Dozens of people and activist groups gathered here outside of City Hall this afternoon ahead of Council's 1:30 meeting where the bylaw was once again discussed. The city's Emergency and Community Services Committee heard from activists this afternoon as it unveiled a new encampment process, laying out 6 steps the city will take in response to any complaints. It starts with trying to find temporary housing for those living outside and ends with a potential fine for trespassing. But housing advocates, as well as the city's own report, say there aren't enough spaces in shelters.
Shelter capacity is a huge issue, especially in the women's service. I spent hours and hours of my day trying to get women into shelter, and there's no rooms.
The city says 440 individuals and families have found spaces in shelters or temporary housing since 2020. But according to the Hamilton Community Legal Clinic, there are still around 175 people across 35 major encampments in the city who are chronically unhoused. And with more people seeking shelter in the pandemic, there aren't enough beds. The city is looking to work with higher levels of government to create additional shelter spaces. But activists want the city to allow tents in public spaces in the meantime.
Tents aren't the answer. They've never been the answer. I've lived in tents. They're not great. But having some form of shelter where you can have dignity, where you can change your clothes, where you can go to bed and have some form of shelter, even though it's a piece of nylon, is better than sleeping on the stairs.
Later in the day, the committee voted unanimously for the city to come back with an evaluation framework on all next steps before they move forward.